Hello there everyone! So after checking all the lords, I have some suggestions concerning some of the important aspects of a campaign. Now this is my evaluation of each lord just in terms of climate. It's quick, you have heard me comment how important it is in terms of going for a full map domination victory, so the parameters I set here are very simple. How good their starting area is concerning climate, how good the climate is into their short and long victory, and then into the world map domination, and I'm not evaluating how much they can overcome it with skills or mechanics like, High Elves attrition reduction right or something along those lines. The idea here is just simply to provide you with a better idea of which lords are relatively easier or harder to go for that world domination, and it should help you in case that's your goal, that's your next victory condition. Well, here are my suggestions. So let's get into it. So for perfect climate, very simple. All that is necessary for a faction to be here is that they have no uninhabitable, and they only have suitable or slightly just some unpleasant climate. So basically that includes all of the Beastmen characters, all of Chaos Dwarves, Nakai and Oxyotl. This is important because they are the only order-based characters to have no uninhabitable or unpleasant climate whatsoever. Norska, Kairos, which is very different from other, from the other monogod factions. He's kind of the best in that regard. Then we have all of the Warriors of Chaos, of course, including Be'lakor there, and the Wood Elves. Why? Well, let me show you with an example here. So as an example, I have Tzeentch here, and as you can see, this is what you want for those sort of campaigns. There's no red anywhere. He doesn't have any uninhabitable. All that he has is actually the unpleasant in the mountains, which is kind of bad because it's one of the most current, the most typical climates that you're going to find, but still it's quite perfect for a complete world map domination, which is precisely the idea. Perfect climate for getting the control of the whole map, and any of the factions that I mentioned in the perfect climate will be able to do so with no issue really. For great climate, we have most of the Skaven except Ikit Claw. So the main differentiation here is very simple, is that Ulthuan, the island of Ulthuan, is their uninhabitable terrain, and Ikit starts closer. That's it. You'll most likely have to deal with uninhabitable climate compared to the other Skaven lords much quicker. He'll have to deal with it much quicker, and that's it. That's the whole reasoning why there's a differentiation here. The ogres have only uninhabitable in the desert, and it will take them time to be there. Tsarina, I'll explain in just a moment, but Skarbrand and the demons of chaos, they only have, if not mistaken, some uninhabitable, which will take them quite a while before they reach it, and that's mainly the idea for the great climate. It's like there is some uninhabitable, but it will take them time for even to reach it. Now Tsarina could be in good climate. I just wanted to differentiate here a little bit. Let me show you why. So here's Tsarina's, climate idea. So basically she will have a little bit more time to build up a solid base before having to really engage into the uninhabitable climate, compared to Kostaltin and compared to Boris, which starts already there and has this as unpleasant, but still he starts there. So that's the sort of thought process. I just wanted to differentiate her a little bit, as she's still very good to dominate the whole map with. Only desert and the chaos wastelands, it's not a bad climate per se. So yeah, that's why she's there and not below. That's the main idea. So in terms of good climate, this is basically factions that you will still be able to dominate the map with, to go for full map domination, but either on the short or long victory they will already have issues with the climate nearby, or they have plenty of uninhabitable. Let me show you a couple of examples here. I won't show every single one of them, but these are, let's say, the most significant ones. Let's start, for instance, with Rakarth. So I consider Rakarth a perfect example. Let me show you here. So of course you can see the green areas. The yellow areas aren't really noticeable, but it's most of the old world here. And there's some red areas around, Athaloran, some swamps, some badlands here. So the main idea here is that even though he has, you know, good climate in the Chaos Wastes, which is amazing, and his nearby area is really good, so Rakarth is perfect for, you know, let's go for a long campaign, he's going to be fine, or a short campaign, he's going to be fine. But if you try to go for full map completion, this area, it's going to be a pain. It's going to be a pain. It's going to be difficult to move towards it, or to, you know, to just replenish around this area, and that's the sort of premise. So he's not really into the great climate, but he's also not average. It's good climate. That's the sort of idea. And this the climate is one of the most influential in terms of whether or not you can, you know, easily go for a domination victory. Of course, some factions will be easier because of their mechanics, you know, or their play style, but still climate is really determinant to it. Let me show you another example. So this is Khalida's start position. Let me show you with the climate here. So you can see lots of green and yellow immediately. But she still has a lot of red, but she's going to face it much later on. And she has a little bit more than, you know, issues than Rakarth. But it's just also a comparison between other Tomb Kings, because she's slightly better. So let me go back to the tier list. So overall, the main issues that, for instance, Khalida and Katep, they have good climate in mountains, whether Cetra and Arkan don't. So sometimes that's the comparison. Same thing with Volkmar and Balthazar Gelt, which they have typically better climate than their other Empire counterparts. So for the time being, yeah, it will be much likely, if you really wish, let's say, to pick up an Empire faction to just dominate the whole map with, go for Gelt or go for Volkmar instead of Franz or Wolfhard, because it's just easier, let's say, to accomplish that. Of course, you may wish the challenge, which is why this list exists. So in terms of average climate, this is the sort of, okay, it's decent for the short victory, at least, maybe for the long victory, but it's significantly worse if you try to make a domination full map campaign with one of these guys. You're gonna have a ton of issues actually with climate. And remember, the climate is just, you know, it's replenishment issues, it's income issues, it's more construction costs. So overall, your faction is in a much worse position than if it wouldn't have that climate, because you would gain more money. It would be easier to replenish in other climates, so you would be, you know, more often on your way to new battles and to conquer more settlements. So overall, it implies that you will gonna stop a lot to just replenish, and you know, that sort of main idea. So let me show you here, for instance, with Krokgar, for instance. So you do start next to unpleasant, inhabitable climate, of course, but sooner or later you're gonna have to fight. You know, for instance, you're gonna go against the Oracles, you're gonna go against the Poxmakers of Nurgle. So at least if you try to follow these victory conditions, at one point you're gonna have to fight into uninhabitable climate, which is kind of the idea here with average climate. You know, either on the short or long campaign victory, you're gonna have to face bad climate. And then, look at this, it's just uninhabitable all around, it's just really unpleasant. It's going to be much difficult. This is a comparison, straight comparison. Who you're going to pick, Krokgar or Oxyodal if you want to conquer the whole map. One has no climate issues whatsoever, and Krokgar has this. So yeah, go for Oxyodal, go for Nakai. You know, that sort of idea, that's what I wanted to have in mind. It's not that they're bad factions overall, it's just that with currently how the climate works, it's really not as effective. It's really not as effective going there. You're just going to have a ton of issues. And well, he's just one more example. So this is for Malekith. You'll notice that he has, you know, decent climate overall over here. There's no uninhabitable, so why did I put him, you know, so low? Well, it's because he has to go in and conquer Ulthuan. And over there he does have uninhabitable, and it's just such a lengthy campaign to go over there already. You're going to face bad climates overall. And then if after those, if you try to go forth into other lands, like literally if you're not lucky, and if Imrik, which is one of your objectives, if for the long campaign, if Imrik is not destroyed, you're going to have to face him in uninhabitable climate. And you have a lot of it. You have really a lot of it. The Order of Lore Masters, if Teclis survives, you also have to go into bad climate. So that's the sort of notion here, where, you know, compared with someone like Rakarth, which you recently saw previously, he has much better climate overall to go into that world map domination. Of course, this is always subjective, but you kind of have to analyze things as, you know, what are the goals that they are offering, and, you know, how does that relate towards, you know, you selecting a lord and your experience in the campaign. If you're going for that short, long campaign victory or into domination, what is expected? You know, what is the expected idea? Is this a harder faction or an easier faction? That's what I'm trying to illustrate here. And finally, terrible climate. So all of Brittany is here, most of the lizardmen are here, and you already saw how Krokgar is average, so imagine how the climate is for these guys. But I'll explain my decision on those guys in just a moment. And nearly all of the high elves are here, except Imric, because he actually has decent climate. Mountains are suitable for him, which makes a whole lot of difference. And let me just show you some examples of what I mean. I'll show you a Bretonnian example, I'll show you an example of the High Elves and of the Lizardmen, and then I'll show you Lokir, which is such a terrible one. But I'll show you those examples. So, for instance, here's Luan. He's pretty much the essential for Bretonnia, and yeah, like, mountains are unpleasant, the whole Ulthuan area. Everything to the north is just, why are you even going there? You know, it's just completely uninhospitable. And, you know, other than conquering maybe the Empire, which is typically an ally, so I'm also factoring that in. Like, okay, if you're going to conquer the Empire, if you're going to conquer Bretonnia, then you're fine. And then nothing else. Everything else is just a mess. So that's why he falls where he falls. You know, for the most part, you're welcome fighting a short campaign. But anything other than that, long and domination, you're gonna struggle quite a lot with climate issues. Let me show you a different example this time for, let's go for Teclis, for instance. Actually, no, Negarith. It's much more important. So, Alithanar, let me show you. The biggest issue that they have, really, is that already very close by, you're gonna have to go into an inhabitable climate. Okay, or into unpleasant, you have the mountains there, and the island is unpleasant to him. The island of Ulthuan, and let me remind you the victory conditions. You know, he needs Negarith, which is pleasant, oh, thank goodness, but then you have to maintain control of the whole island. Of course, you may go into vassals, you may go into military allies, yeah, I agree with that, but still, if you go the other way around, if you want to dominate the whole map, then you're gonna fight that, you're gonna conquer it for yourself, and it's just and then he needs to destroy factions that are so far away and into uninhabitable climate for sure. So it's kind of one of the biggest issues with this with these sort of campaigns, where yeah, you're going to start off, you're going to have a good solid base, it has a lot of uninhabitable climate, and the more that you progress into the campaign, I mean, look at this, it's just all unpleasant, you're going to have some expenditures there, and it's just worse than, say, that you're going with an Imric campaign. You would notice that immediately, especially in terms of victory conditions. So that's the sort of idea that this is a strict comparison. Who you'd rather be, Alithanar conquering the whole map, or Imric? And I'm going to tell you, Imric has, you know, it's not just the mechanics. We're talking about just a whole different level of dominating the map with. Now, let me show you the Lizardmen and my explanation on the Lizardmen. So, for example, this is a very good example, Tehen Hawin. I don't know how to pronounce this. Tehen Hawin. Okay, so he has to conquer all of Lustria for his long campaign, and that seems fine. That seems fine. There's a little bit of unpleasant. Most of it, it's habitable. It's fine. But yeah, you're gonna have uninhabitable issues here unless Oxyotl dominates completely, and even then, even if you, let's say, try to confederate at one point, and you're going to be in an uninhabitable climate. And then if you try to see how it would work if you're going to go for full map completion, well, as soon as you see this area, it's like nothing here is pleasant. Nothing here is kind of suitable. It's all it's either unsuitable or uninhabitable climate, and it will just create so many issues for you to try to conquer. Of course, by that time you already have a solid base, but it's such a small solid base. You don't have a lot of good territories, so it's just, this is one of those factions that would go for a long campaign, and then by the time that I want to go into domination campaign, or into trying to complete the whole map, no, definitely I'll just start a new one. That's the main issue. The thought process is like, well, it's going to be a pain. So yeah, climate, kind of like a pain here. But the granddaddy of possibly the worst climates ever goes to Lokir, in my opinion, because he has mountains as uninhabitable. So let me show you what that implies. I'll just show you this and be silent. Does this feel like a good campaign to control the whole map with? I don't think so. So it's going to be a big problem. He does have Unpleasant in the Chaos Wastelands, which is an improvement in some ways. But this whole area is quite a lot. Mountains is one of the biggest climates there is. It's everywhere. And he has it uninhabitable. If it wasn't pleasant, maybe he would be average. But like it is, it's one of those factions that you're going to control the coast, you're going to go into maybe your objectives here and there, and you're never going to go into this area very easily, or with the sense of, yeah, let's go into it, it's going to be fun. I don't think so. Well, maybe it is fun for you, but it's definitely not the campaign that I would recommend for a full map domination. Achieve the short victory, maybe the long victory, and then go for something else. That's the sort of idea. Unless you're really fine and you think you can control this. There's an added thing here, which is that the Dark Elves also cannot replenish and be immune to attrition, because they don't have a stance that does both. Either you can replenish with the channeling, or you can be immune to attrition with the raiding, but you cannot do both, which is a big problem for facing that uninhabitable climate, which for the Dark Elves you can see how it is, and especially for Lokir it's just a pain. So yeah, if you're trying to do a world map domination, and you're thinking, how is this possible, how others do, well, they probably don't pick Lokir to do it. But yeah, let's go into resuming this. So overall, if you're trying to make at least one campaign where you go into you achieve the whole map completion, go for something like with great or perfect climate. That's my recommendation. You can go with something from the good climate, and that adds a couple more factions. I think other than the Bretonnians, and yeah, other than the Bretonnians, you have someone at least that is on the good climate and above. So if you have those lords, by all means, go for them. Otherwise, anything from average to terrible climate, you're going to have a really rough time trying to dominate the whole map, and it's not going to be the most pleasant experience. It's not for everyone, so that's why I'm recommending this. Okay, so I hope this makes you decide a little bit better which factions to use to dominate the whole map, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.